And welcome back, everybody, to Chicky and Pete's in South Philadelphia. It's the Soul Coaches Show, broadcasting to you live on the Philadelphia Soul Radio Network and 98.7 The Coach, Joe Kraus, along with Lou Tilley. And Lou, I'll let you do the introductions, what we're all here for, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello and welcome the new coach of the Philadelphia Soul, Doug Plank. How about that? How about that?
Impressive.
Welcome.
Impressive.
Welcome to Philadelphia. That's probably not the sound you heard the last time you were introduced in South Philadelphia, is it?
No, not quite. That was a pregame activity, and no, that was a big difference.
When was the last time you played here with the Bears? Was that the 1980 championship series, the playoffs here on that dark, stormy night at the Vet?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We ended up losing to the Eagles. And it was a close game.
I guess applause too.
The game, but give them credit. They came out, they performed, they made all the right plays.
Now Jaws told a story today. That's your owner now. Understand this, okay? Jaws told the story today that in that game when Hartenstein ran through him like a samurai sword through Jaws' back on a blindside hit, that 4 plays later you were the one that sent him to the hospital. Do you remember it that way?
It's back then, especially, Buddy Ryan was known to send safeties after quarterbacks on blitzing formations, and there were certain formations, it was called automatic front and coverage, so if they lined up in a certain formation, I automatically blitzed, and they lined up in that formation, and I hit Ron, so...
For those of you who don't remember, you do remember Buddy Ryan and his famous 46 defense, right? It was not a formation, it was named after the key man in that defense, and his number was 46, and it was this man, Doug Plank, a really famous man in football history in that respect. In fact, Jaworski, in his book, The Game That Changed the Game, devotes a section of his book to you and your role in defense back
Lou,
then.
I have to tell you, after reading Ron's book, I felt like if I had an opportunity to go back in the Arena Football League, I at least owed a favor to Ron for the kudos he gave me in his book. And I have nothing but respect for Ron. He's going to be a great owner to talk to because we can talk football. We can talk about things that need to be done as far as personnel is concerned. And I really look forward to his input.
Let's get into that now because Ron Jaworski, that the public knows as an announcer, as a quarterback, a guy that always smiles, is incredibly involved and intense about his Philadelphia Soul. 6 and 12 was not tolerable to any of the owners of the Philadelphia Soul, and you have a job to do here.
Yeah, there's, you look and say, well, where do you start? Well, I think you start with the attitude because the best teams don't always win championships. Sometimes it's the teams that have determination and focus that start the season and they finish the season.
Hear that? They like that.
So everything is about starting and finishing, not just the season and just take it on an individual game by game basis. And you just take baby steps and you just keep going. And a lot of times you improve and you get better as the season goes on. But I want players that are willing to go ahead and give me everything that they've got. And it doesn't take much. You guys sitting in the stands, you can tell players that are loafing, not doing their job. We don't want those guys around this year.
Nice. Now, for those of you who are just getting to know Doug outside of his NFL background, he retired around 1984. He went into individual business and owned and managed several Burger Kings for about 20 years, right?
Yes. It's funny. I don't think anybody else in the coaching profession has ever taken the career path I have. After playing, serving combo meals for 20 years, it gave me a perspective, though, how important it is to make sure that you have a relationship with the people that you oversee, you supervise, you motivate on a day-in, day-out basis. And, I feel like these players are more than just players, and I'm just more than a coach. We have a relationship, and we have a dependency on each other to make sure that we do everything we can, every single play, to make sure that we're successful.
There are better burgers here now. You understand that at Chicky and Pete's. Get used to that. Pete Sciarrocchi, another one of our owners here, and that's who we're being entertained by tonight. Then it was back into broadcasting and in coaching for a while that led you into the Arena Football League and one of the storied franchises in the AFL.
It's funny. I started coaching with Danny White, who was the head coach in Arizona with the Rattlers, and we had tremendous success. I literally went from the broadcast booth to the coaching on the field with Danny, after one game when he terminated as defensive coordinator. And he said, Doug, I'd like you to be my defensive coordinator. No contract. If you do a bad job, I'm going to fire you. And I said, okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and do it. We went to the next 3 consecutive Arena Bowls.
Wow.
After that, I had an opportunity to become the head coach in Atlanta. Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, had just purchased an Arena Football League team. And I went down there, and I coached down there for 4 years. The first year we went to the Arena Bowl, went to the playoffs each year, and fortunate to get Coach of the Year.
Let me back you up right there. You go to Atlanta, which is coming off a rough couple of seasons and, frankly, a losing atmosphere, and you turn them around that fast. How do you do that, and can you do it here?
There's no doubt. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this team. The fans are fantastic. The ownership group is great. I don't know what happened last year. I know Mike Cohency. He's a good football coach. You know, he's had good teams in the past. He's won Arena Bowls. I don't know what the circumstance or situation was, but I know one thing. If you get enough good players here, you can't have a losing season. You can't have a losing season. And it's not so much that I need to motivate those players or instruct them or do anything. Just point them in the right direction. Point them on the field and say, guys, let's go. We're going to get this done, but you're not going to do it. We are going to do it.
This is a unique sport, and that literally means one of a kind. There's no brand of football quite like it, as I learned firsthand this year. And I learned that with 3 minutes to go, there's a long way to go in a football game. So there is no sport that I can see where it's more important to close. How do you instill that winning feeling in those final couple of minutes?
You know, you can do it with words, but I think more importantly, you know, actions mean something. As a player, you have a tendency to look at your head coach or your coaches and see what they're doing in situations. Now, if we're down to the last few minutes in a game and it's a close game, then I better be showing some emotion.
Yeah.
I better be showing some sense of urgency, because if I'm not showing it, why do my players feel like they got to show it? It's the same thing with showing up on time. If I don't show up on time, why would they show up on time?
Yeah.
So I know one thing. We're going to have some energy. We're going to have some intensity. Our coaching staff is going to be a reflection of what I want our team to be, and we're going to do this together, including the fans.
You're listening to the Coaches Show, and you're listening live here on the Philadelphia Soul Radio Network at 98.7 The Coast, the official South Jersey home of the Philadelphia Soul. Joe Kraus, Lou Tilley, and our new head coach, Doug Blank.
And we're at Chicky and Pete's, the home of the Big Soul post-game party, and we hope to enjoy it more and more in the year ahead. Doug, let's back out of it now. Let's go backwards. You spent last year with Jim Tressel in the great Ohio State program where you cut your teeth. Back at Columbus, where you played for the great Woody Hayes. And before that, you were with another Ryan with the New York Jets in 2009, coaching their defensive backfield. And let's backtrack even more. Let's go the other way. Woody Hayes, and then on to the pros, and at first Neil Armstrong and the Chicago Bears, and then Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan. Those are the guys that have influenced your style?
Yep, there's no question. I've been so blessed to have coaches that really, they change your life. They've been successful in all different areas. And as I said before, I think especially I learned how important communication was with Mike Ditka. You know, his ability to go ahead and change the long-term prospect of players in the organization and set them on a correct course. You know, that was invaluable. But Buddy Ryan, tell you what, I learned a lot about him, not just in schemes, but developing that relationship with players so that when you tell a player to do something, he doesn't question it. He just automatically goes out there, and you are going to have to – you can't stop a player that's committed and that believes in their coach. He'll do anything he can for him. And that's the bottom line. This game is not about 1 quarter or 2 quarters or 3 quarters. It's about going out there from the very start and going till the very last play of the game, as we saw this year in the Arena Bowl. You got to finish games. You got to finish games.
This year in the Arena Bowl and in the Arena League with the Philadelphia Soul, have you had a chance, Doug, to look at your personnel on the Philadelphia Soul and assess what you like, what you don't like, what you need to change?
You know, fans can see players playing, and they can see effort, and they can see players taking off. You don't have to be a coach to see that. And I know many of you watched our team this past season, very diligently, and you saw effort at times, other times maybe not effort. Our goal is to make sure that every single person that we have on that field, every one of those players is giving everything they have. And it just won't be tolerated. I'm going to make this message known from the very first day that they arrive, that this is what the expectation level is. And if you can't reach it, then you're probably not going to be here. And it's not any reflection of whether I do or don't like you. It's about being accountable to each other, and especially you guys sitting in those stands, because that's what the bottom line is. We are playing for each other, and you supporting us.
You grew up in Western Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Pittsburgh Steeler country. Got to say that. Play at Ohio State University. Play pro ball with the Chicago Bears. Now you're coaching in Philadelphia. Which is the toughest town of all those for football?
You look at, Pittsburgh really is a football town, but it doesn't support some of the other sports like Philadelphia. Oh my God! I mean, you guys are the craziest sports fans in America, because there isn't a sport in this town that you don't support and absolutely love. So, what is there not to like about being a player or a coach in this town? It's, having spent some of my time earlier in my life out in Phoenix, Arizona, like I said, most people are from somewhere else. It's so nice to be in a city where people have been born here, grow up, their families are here, their relatives are here, and their commitment to the sports towns is unbelievable, unbelievable.
Hey, fans, Doug's going to have to go. He's got another radio show to do, which we're happy about, to get the word out there about the Philadelphia Soul and the new era that's about to start here all over again. One thing I'm going to tell you, how tough is this guy? Literally, you'll see the highlight tape of him. He could have been a Philadelphia Eagle in the great tradition of Wes Hopkins and Andre Waters. This man led with his head, played with his head, and paid the price. He's had both of his shoulders replaced in their entirety from your days in football, I guess, not from swinging golf clubs, right?
Yeah, I've got more metal in me than my golf bag does right now. So, yeah.
Doug, congratulations. When will you move into town and get the family acclimated? And what are your plans as far as getting into the fabric of Philly before we go?
You know what? We're going to do that sooner than later. There's still, dates that we can't talk to everybody in the league right now. So that's due 2 or 3 weeks down the road before we can really start reaching out to players across the league. But we're going to start building this thing as quick as we can.
Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. Doug Plank, new coach of the Philadelphia Soul. We'll be talking to him a lot in the year ahead. Thanks.
All right. Doug Plank and Lou Tilley and Joe Kraus broadcasting to you live as we come to you from Chicky and Pete's here in South Philadelphia. And remember, you're listening to the broadcast tonight on the Philadelphia Soul Radio Network, and we're also broadcasting on the home of the Philadelphia Soul in South Jersey, 98.7 The Coast. When we come back, Lou Tilley and I will continue our conversation, and we'll include the great fans of Philadelphia. Stay with us, everyone.